Hello and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tally. This is episode 43, and I'm your host, Brian Tally. The mission and the goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of some of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify. The online information and handles are all located on the scrolling ticker at the bottom portion of your screen. Be sure to like and share the program as well. You can also support the program by going to Anchor FM or Spotify and clicking the support button. Folks, let me tell you about Patriot Home Services, a reliable company who stands by their work and comes in on time and on budget. Patriot Home Services is located in the Woodlands, Texas, and offers a wide array of services. Cody Dawson, the owner, is a hands-on contractor who will follow through on your project and will leave you having perhaps the best contracting experience you've ever had. Whether you need home additions, remodels, outdoor patios and kitchens, flooring, painting, and much more. One call does it all. Patriot Home Services, 720-745-2568. Or visit them online at patriothomeservicesllc.com. That's patriothomeservicesllc.com. Folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. It's not every day that you get to sit down and speak with a combat veteran that has gone through and has experienced so much trauma in his life. The wounds of war, if you will. Andrew Canales is the founder of CEO of Houses for Warriors Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit that specializes in supporting homeless and injured veterans with obtaining benefits, transitional housing, and transformational growth and development to lead fulfilling lives. Andrew served 6 years in the United States Air Force and volunteered for 2 combat tours in Iraq, totaling 23 months of overseas combat service. During 2007, Andrew survived a rocket attack that killed 10 people and injured over 70 while working as a prison guard at a detainment facility in South Iraq. He was soon diagnosed with post-traumatic stress and started his journey to becoming the man he is today. With Houses for Warriors, Andrew coordinates with business owners, donors, community leaders, and volunteers across the country to create strategic partnerships and opportunities to serve our veterans and those involved. His main goal is to improve the quality of life for every veteran who is struggling and in veteran homelessness in the United States. With that, we are honored to be joined by Andrew Canales. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm hanging in there. A busy podcast day, but we need to get to your story. It's important. It deserves to be told. You've got a big Veterans Ball and Gala coming up. You've got a remarkable story of triumph and perseverance and resilience, really adversity. Again, your story is very deserving of being told, and I hope I could do it in a way that will make sense to people and will certainly add real life value to the lives of folks that may need it most. So, again, thanks for joining us on today's program, and man, let's get after it, man. So, tell me a little bit about yourself and where you were raised.
Thanks, man. Well, first off, you reading my bio, it sounds way better when you read it than when I read it.
Hey, man, I struggled with one of those words there. Hey, I'm a Marine, right?
No,
so what word did I struggle with here? I was like, I forget the word, but yeah, I was like, man, I don't ever stumble like that. But hey, I am human.
No, I appreciate you, and thank you for having me on today. I grew up in Palm Springs, California. My mom moved us out there when I was a baby from Texas. I was born in Texas, and a long line of Spanish Americans immigrated out here. I think we're the 4th generation Americans. And so I'm the first person in my family to serve in the military. And I remember just really being inspired when I was younger. I had a friend who went in the Army, Green Berets, and he was a year older than me. So when I joined the military, I was really inspired to, do something with my life. So it was overall a good experience, I'd say.
Andrew, we have some commonalities here. Palm Springs, you say, and Texas. Well, I grew up in San Diego and
Nice.
I moved to Colorado when I was 15. And, now you're in Denver. I'm in Texas. We're just kind of
That's
flip
funny.
flopping everywhere here.
Yeah.
But, we are living the lives that we were intended to live and doing our best in doing so. Now, you you had some trying times, if you will, when you were in the Air Force. You volunteered to go overseas when a lot of people would cut and run and say, "No, I ain't going." You raised your hand and, and said, "Send me, send it, let's go." And you ended up working in a prison in South Iraq. Can you explain that experience for our listeners?
Yeah. So if you can imagine what it was like being 19, I know that, for a lot of people, it wasn't the same as 19 in the military. So, but after going through, we went through about 6 weeks of training, and then I was in Iraq within 2 months of actually getting to my first base. So I arrived at my first base, the Travis Air Force Base, um, first station, first duty station, and then within a month I was like on the deployment list. I was out processing a week after I in processed. Like it was pretty fast, and I felt like I was just really getting thrown into it. I didn't have a single stripe on my shoulder. I did, or on my arm. I was an airman basic, E1, and to be guarding some of the most dangerous people in the world, really. People that our Army and our Marines were capturing and detaining through their combat operations all over the country. We had Saddam Hussein's personal bodyguard in our compound when I was, I'm 20 years old by the time um, we're halfway through my deployment, and it was a very remarkable experience that not a lot of people get to go through. I think it taught me a lot about the world and what people are capable of, and just how evil people can be. Some of the things I witnessed, I was a kid, really. I look back at these kids that are 18, 19, 20. They're kids to me. Like I'm 35. I'm not that old, but I see this like innocence, this immaturity, this adolescence that like I realized that was me. Um, but you quickly lose that when you experience like the actual combat side of this military experience that not everybody gets to experience in the military. It's a very small percentage of people who actually experience the war side, or who even leave the base. And my first week there, we were getting mortared and we had rocket attacks, we had riots, and I mean, we're talking full prison riots where every compound of the prison, all 12,000 members were like rioting, throwing things at us, making weapons, burning down their hooches, like everything. So I think it was, I had the date at one point. I looked this up. I believe it was like June or July. About halfway through my tour, we had a significant rocket attack that actually hit one of the compounds directly next to mine, and I was actually walking in between them when that happened with another airman, and we both got blown back into our compound fence from the explosion. And that explosion hit the detainees, um, It was fortunate that no airmen or no Navy guys were lost or got injured during this, but over 70 detainees were injured, and at least 10 of them died that day. So,
Hmm.
and I actually had to go back and find this incident report. There's like public headlines, there's public incident reports that come out. I was able to go back and find one, and it actually gave me the numbers. I had no idea how significant that event was until I was 34 years old, and I look back and I was like, how many people got hurt that day? Like I never knew. And we never heard the data after that, right? I remember our compound leader, he he gave us a briefing after, like an after action briefing, and I just remember him telling us that we'll never be the same, and that we were baptized by live fire that day. Like, not many people have that baptism, and to witness that tragedy, because even though they were detainees, us as Americans, we believe in innocent until proven guilty, and so these are all people that are awaiting trial. They're not guilty of anything yet, in the eyes of the law, and so a lot of them were, of course, but there were some innocent people in that, I'm sure, and that really, struck a new chord that I didn't know I had, as far as like what people were capable of and what was possible. And you see the movies, you see Saving Private Ryan when you're a kid, you watch Top Gun, you watch all these cool movies when you grow up, and then to join and actually witness it and experience it, it's a whole other thing. It
Hmm.
You can be strong, you can be physically strong, you can think you're mentally strong, but it took a decade for me to really pay attention to what that did to me that day. 10
Hmm.
years later, 2018, I'm hospitalized for suicide. I'm recovering. I'm 2 years into a recovery of two broken legs, and 2 years sober from major addiction to narcotics, and um, I finally had to, admit to myself that I was hurting, and that, when you really trace it all back, it was that day, it was that event that did it. So I feel blessed that I was able to actually figure that out, start working on it, and heal from it. But not all of our guys are that lucky. Not all of them have the support that I had the mother I had. So um,
Hmm.
I'd say that was really what started this whole thing for me. So, and that was that first deployment, that first experience, and then I ended up volunteering for another one. After getting home, I got addicted to alcohol. Became an alcoholic, started going through some problems, getting in trouble. So I deployed again because I knew we couldn't get it out there, or at least I couldn't, and got sober. But then experienced more more bad stuff, more stuff that caused more pain. And then eventually, I was actually forced out of the military in 2012 for using synthetic cannabis. It wasn't even real cannabis. It's before the laws were changed, um, and self medicating, trying to maintain my career and not go seek help. There was this stigma that if you sought help, or if you asked for help, that you would get, they would I forget what it was called. They would 5150 you and go to psych ward and put you through suicide watch, take away all your stuff and your shoestrings, and then you'd be out processing out of the military. And
Hmm.
so that's not what I wanted to happen to me. I cared more about what people thought of me than what I was actually going through. There was a time in my life where I actually I cared more what those people thought than my own mental health and my sanity. Um, and so yeah, uh, been a long journey. That's a a lot in a short little bit. And
Yeah, I sincerely appreciate you opening up
yeah,
and sharing this vulnerability, because the veteran supporters, first responders, and just regular everyday people are going to hear your testimony and you are going to be adding some real life value. And that's the mission and the goal of this podcast, is to hear it from folks like you that have lived it. And some of the people that are going to be listening to this are also going to be, hey, I know exactly what that guy's talking about. I was there, battle tested, battle hardened.
It's exactly my experience. The more that I share, the more people reach out to me and thank me for sharing, and can tell me, I hear a lot of people relating to my story, and not necessarily the experience, but the consequences of not dealing with the experience, whatever that was for them. The longer we put it off, the longer we don't. Exactly. Only you can save you. Like, the longer you don't take charge and, take it head on, the longer it'll eat you from the inside out. So,
Yeah, I realize in my own struggles that nobody is going to come and save you. Everybody has their own issues in life. Everybody has everybody's busy. Everybody has, their nobody's going to come save you except for you. But the most the most rewarding thing is to actually get up and to start to get that 1% better every day, and to start growing within yourself, and to start making those small steps toward a goal that you may set up for yourself, whether it's a small goal or a large goal. Now, and another thing I've found is that you have to be ready to want to fix yourself. You have to literally hit that rock bottom to say, I'm done. I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. If I continue down this path, I'm going to be dead. And is that the life that I want to live, or do I just give up, throw in the towel, and and just become a statistic? And it takes guys years sometimes to get to that point. To me, it did. It took years for me to say, I've got to get back to who I was. That old Brian Talley died, but now here I am. I have an ability to reinvent, recreate, redesign another version of myself that I didn't used to have, as the old Brian Talley. I've got some new things that I can bring in and add now to this new life that I'm living. And kind of like the same with what you're doing now with Houses for Warriors. Now, you had said, look, they're sending me into combat. I'm a kid. I'm 19 years old. I'm staring death right directly in the eye. The smells, the visuals. You're working in a prison with known terrorists. I mean, these guys are captured in combat now, pretty much prisoners of war, if you will. They are criminals inside of this prison that you are guarding. And, like you said, some may have been innocent, but you are amongst some very evil people.
People that want to kill you every day, for sure.
yeah, absolutely. And here you are, you've got, you've always got your guard up, and then you're in a combat zone, and then you're getting rocket attacks, and then you're getting this and that, and you're experiencing a lot of things that a lot of 19-year-olds may not ever experience in their entire life. And you have a uniqueness about your story because you are in a branch of service that doesn't really send their enlisted to combat. They send their officers to combat because they're typically flying fighter jets or large cargo planes or whatever it may be. So to have that experience, to be an Air Force combat veteran, somebody that was on the ground with Marines and with soldiers, and to share those commonalities is, again, I mean, it's a very unique story, and it's yours to be told. Now, you were baptized by live fire. I've never heard that before. Can you describe what that means to you, especially being a 19, 20-year-old kid?
I don't remember a lot of my, of the day to day in my career. there's, obviously these big traumatic events and the bigger events, the bigger things that we responded to and the times we got shot at and stuff. Like, I can remember all that in like it was yesterday. And I don't remember a lot of that briefing except for that one phrase that I'll never forget. And I'll never forget the feeling that gave me, which was just complete and utter confusion. Like, here we are, we're talking about baptism, right? A baptism, something that's like religious and holy and cleansing. And this is a traumatic experience. This is a lot of death and blood and limbs missing. And we were all covered in blood because we were treating people all day. We were, we threw away boots that were just stained and soaked, and we got a bunch of new clothes. I remember that next day they gave us a whole box of new uniforms that we were, here, go get these stitched up. You get an extra time today to go stitch stuff up and take a day off. And so like we had a special relief that came in, and people to come talk to us. And I just remember that I knew what he meant, even though it caused a lot of confusion. I knew that he meant that what we thought the world was like, we've just been given a taste of reality. We've just been given a taste of truth that not a lot of people in this, especially this country, get to experience or witness. It was almost as if the veil had been lifted a little bit. Like we got to see behind the curtain. What inspires a lot of creative entertainment is actually the saddest part of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the reason why he put it that way, that we had been baptized by live fire, was because it brought us all closer to God. We realized that there's good and evil in the world. There's a good side to be on. There's a wrong side to be on. And what else is there? What else can stop evil but something aligned with truth? I it's hard to. This is the first time anybody's ever actually asked me about this. So,
well, I mean, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
It's very powerful to be baptized by live fire. And if people can understand what this can mean, use your imagination. You are baptized in holy water. And here you are now, blood. You've taken that look behind that veil, like you said, and you've experienced things with your own eyes in this thing called life that many will never know and never experience. But the average civilian will sit down and watch a war movie and say, that's cool. Wow.
Or play Call of Duty.
Right.
And
here you are living it and being traumatized by it because you are doing everything in your... Look, it's fight or flight. Of course, you are going to fight. That is why you're there. That is the oath you took. That is why you signed up for this job. That is why you volunteered. You said, send me. Now, again,
if you don't mind, I'd like to add too, like, one of the biggest things I think that came from that experience was, aside from this deeper understanding, I think it's a lot, something that I've worked with a lot is working through this division that I've had in my heart and my mind, that like there's a certain people who understand this part of the world, and then there's a group that don't. And it was something that actually really dampened my ability to create meaningful relationships in my life. Is I always separated people in my mind by whether or not they truly understand what's going on in the world and how much pain and suffering there is, versus all the people who are in that illusion that we've been able to create. And so, and what I mean by that is, we serve in the military so that people don't have to experience that. We sacrificed our normality, our normal lives, having a normal family, having normal relationships, so that my mom, my sister, my brothers, my friends, the people in this country don't have to live that life. And I think that's a lot of the problem with like politics and social issues and all of these divisive things, like people, and it took me a long time to really break that, or should I say create that bridge between those two worlds in my heart, because in order to have connections and friends and meaningful relationships and support, true support for your mission, for your cause, you have to be able to understand that everybody goes through something, and everybody is going through a struggle. And it's not just us veterans, it's not just us first responders, even though we have experienced this. I mean, think of medics that roll up on murders and violent crimes and rapes, and there's just so many other things. And so to be able to take my experience and move it out of the way, and to see people with clear lenses, with clear eyes, with empathy, and just a listening heart. I've learned that everybody is going through something traumatic, or everybody's had some kind of traumatic incident in their life. And so that's something that's actually really helped me through this process, and only really recently in the last couple of years. And through those meaningful relationships that I've been, slowly building. It's slow. It's a slow process for me, because it's still new and foreign. But breaking down those guards, those barriers, I'm able to really understand people better. I'm able to help more. I'm able to just connect more and deeper. That's been my overall lesson of all of that, I'd say. Just kind of
Again, your vulnerability here is truly honorable, and I know it's hard to talk about, and I know you've been through a lot, but you hit the nail right on the head. Life is full of trauma. Every single person in this country, in this world, will experience adversity. We will experience that hardship. We will go through wrecks, cancer, violent shootings, stabbings, rapings, like you said, police officers, firemen, first responders, whoever it may be. It could be a civilian rolling up on a very traumatic type situation where, they're witnessing something with their own eyes that they never would have thought that they would have ever seen. And yes, you're right. It is not just, in one community. It's not just in a military community. It is everywhere. And it is very difficult to get through traumatic type events, because it's hard to erase from your mind. It is hard to not turn that page and to try to put those positive thoughts in your mind when all you can see is the bad. And sometimes it can get so bad, it can put you on your knees, to where the only thing you can do to take away that pain is to go to that drug bottle, is to go to that alcohol bottle, is to go to that gun. That is the reality of the human nature of who we are as people, because it hurts. And a lot of people that are so alpha-centric in this country don't want to talk about it because of the stigma, like you said. So having groups like you and people to reach out to, like your friend Nicholas, okay, with Warriors Next Adventure, and folks like me who could sit and listen and try to help and try to help those people and encourage them and inspire them, because we've all been through it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times that maybe people are just now going through their experiences, but guess what, we're going to go through them again because life is full of it.
Yeah.
It's not all, like rainbows, and it's hard. Life is hard, and that's why there's so much veteran suicide and first responder suicide and civilian
Yeah.
suicide and all this other stuff, because it is tough out there. It is very, very difficult.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like, I heard somebody talking about this recently, while I was, consuming content on social media, and the hero and the villain share the same story, and they share the same trauma, and it's really just about how they view it. The hero doesn't want anybody to hurt the way that he hurt. The hero doesn't want people to feel the pain that he felt when he was hurt, when he was traumatized, when he was, going through that experience. The villain can go through the same exact experience and wants everybody else to feel that way, wants revenge, wants other people to feel the pain that he's feeling. And so I feel like all people have this ability. And then there's the people that check out, that don't want to do anything with it. They don't want to be a villain. They don't want to be a hero. They just want to check out, and they just don't want to have this experience anymore. And I feel like, the first step is to become the hero in your own life, in your own story, right? You have to take on what you've learned, what you've experienced, what the pain that you felt, and channel that to do something so that other people don't have to experience that pain too. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on is it's in our slogan. We offer a handout, not a hand up, because like you mentioned, and like you put on the board earlier, on our screen earlier, that you can only help yourself. You are the only one that can save you. And I think it's not really, that's not really a common thought. That's not really a common, not especially these days. We're always looking for somebody to help us, to save us, to we got the government creating dependency, and we have a lot of people dependent on the government. A lot of people feel victims to their circumstances, and it's like anybody can be a victim or responsible for those circumstances, and how what happens next. So I think that like you and like me and Nick and all the other veteran community leaders that are out there leading the fight in different ways, it's like I think the biggest thing that we can all do is to inspire more people to do that and keep that going. The more people that are responsible, and I feel I'm not responsible for the rocket that hit those people, but I am responsible for how I deal with it. I'm responsible for how I react to the conversations. I'm responsible for how I manage my emotions, and that's what we do at Houses for Warriors. We give them that hand up. The guys that have lost their path or lost their way, lost their purpose. A lot of that happens when you get out of the military. You lose purpose, you lose a drive, you lose that mission. And so we kind of just give them a space and a place and the support to get back on their own feet and take charge of their lives, become responsible again. We have a partner in our nonprofit. It's called Convergence, and they're a personal development company, and they teach this responsibility mindset. And their whole foundation is off of an acronym called ACT, like Act Now. It's A stands for awareness. Awareness will bring C, which is change. So you can change your behavior, make different choices, right? So awareness brings choices. Choices brings transformation. And you cannot transform unless you're making completely different choices. Like a lot of the times you mentioned, setting goals. That's another thing we do with our guys. We help them set goals, personal, a fun goal, a professional goal. We took that out of the conversions book. And, if you're setting a big enough goal, you have to become a new person to get that goal. It's a goal because you're not getting it with who you are being today. And so in order to achieve those goals, you have to have new routines, new systems, new information, new behaviors, new action, new choices to get all of those different results that you're looking for. And that all comes down to mindset. It all comes down to self-worth, believing themselves. Like we have, there's so much work to be done when we find a veteran that needs us. So we start from the beginning and work our way back. So,
Andrew, you are a sincere and genuine man, and your heart is in the right place. And I say that with the most utmost respect. I've known you for a while. We've talked, about things within the VA and how you can make a difference there with some folks, and what you're doing with Houses for Warriors. You have dedicated your life to service. You continue to serve the community through Houses for Warriors, and you are bringing these homeless veterans a voice. You are there to give them that reinvention. You are there to help them find that new purpose that they have lost during this transformational type process that these guys are going through. And a lot of these veterans are injured, and they've gone through a lot of the same stuff that you've been through. So having that bridge that Andrew can build between the veteran and them obtaining their benefits, of them getting that transitional housing and transforming their life and growing and developing in the people that they will become, it again is truly admirable. Can you explain what it's like to house some of these veterans, and paint me a picture of what Houses for Warriors looks like in Denver, Colorado?
okay. Yeah. So imagine right now, Brian, that you get hit up with a big medical bill, or let's say you, God forbid, knock on wood, this, hypothetical scenario, strictly hypothetical, but let's imagine you fall and break your neck and all the bills start piling up. You lose your home, you lose your car, you have nowhere to really recover, and you end up on the street, right? Let's say you're able to get a little surgery, but it just wipes you out. And because of the injury, you're not able to work. And because you don't have money to pay for a phone, you have nothing to do any research. You can't really move around. This is the exact story of one of our guys. So he was an electrician for 35 years after he got out of the Navy. And then he had to have neck surgery, he had to have lower back surgery. These surgeries, just the cost leading up to the surgery wiped him out. He was homeless for 2.5 years. Then case manager from the VOA calls him and says, hey, there's a place called Houses for Warriors. They have beds. They're a nice place. Maybe you should call them and check them out. So they call us, and he usually gets me or my mom on the phone. So right off the bat, it's a family business. It's a family environment. And we talk to him like he's family. We treat him like family, whether he likes it or not, right? None of these, whether it makes him uncomfortable or not, we show him love, support, and we go through the process. Once we get go over all the house rules, we go over the house, we give him a tour. If he decides that he's ready to take his life on, if he decides that he's ready to get back on his feet, that he's not looking for the handout, he wants to do the work, He wants to fill out the applications. He wants to go to the appointments. He needs to go to. He needs to fill out the disability that he needs, like all of the benefits that they qualify for. He's got to be willing to go for them. If he's willing to do all that and he's willing to sign a contract saying that he's going to follow the rules in the home, we move him right in. And we do the background check. We make sure there's no sex offenders or there's no like child offenders or violent crimes. And as long as there's nothing like that, I don't care what kind of discharge they got. I don't care how long ago they were in the military. I don't care if they deployed. If they served our country and helped us live the life that we're living here in America, then I support them. And so we move them in. We give them a bed. The bed has a down comforter, a bamboo pillow. It's got a house full of food. We have a freezer stocked. We have meat. We have tons of pantry items. We get snacks, donuts, whatever they want. We try to get our donors to we get them to put a list together, and they give us all that. We get donors to give us all that food. They have commercial internet. They have a house computer. They have a printer, and then within that first week, they're having a 4-hour goal setting session with our chief of development, which is Connie Brown. She's a retired chief master sergeant in the Air Force. She also did 26 years of the Air Force Academy in their HR division. And so she helps these guys go after their money that they're owed. So we had one guy, he got $22,000 after the lawyer fees. He got $22,000 in back retirement with a $2,200 a month income. We had another guy, Troy, he got $60,000 from backed disability because he hadn't had a bank account and his disability checks were just dormant. He didn't even realize he was missing out on his disability. We helped another guy go from 20% to 90% with their VA benefits. We helped multiple people get their benefits. That's one of the easier things I can help with. We connect them to the DAV, the VFW. We get them connected at the VA. At least 80% of our guys are not associated with the VA at all. So we get them connected in there, and we start going through their goals and their process, and they get a whole checklist of all the things they have to have that before they're even allowed to graduate the program, right? So they need to complete some volunteer hours. They need to have their birth certificate, their driver's license, their social security card, all their basic stuff to live in the 21st century. We make sure they have a cell phone. If they can't afford one, we make sure the VA gives them one of those Obama phones. They'll get a smartphone that's paid for. Some of these guys have gotten tablets and computers. We help them get back into school. I mean, whatever their independent goals are, we help them along that path, and we kind of just guide them, hold their hands a little bit. But essentially, they're the ones leading. They're the ones doing the work. We're the ones checking up on them. They get assigned a mentor. We have barbecues once a month for them. We sometimes we'll take them out to the movies or bowling, or if we get any special funds or extra money donated, we'll be able to do that. But mainly, we've just been really focused on paying the bills, making sure the house has food, making sure that these guys have a safe and comfortable environment to live in. And, it's not always easy, but I'll tell you, every single time we're able to pay the rent, it's like, it is a good feeling to know that these guys have this place. I'm always there. My Stacy, she's our one of our program admins, and she acts as like the house mom. She comes in, checks on them. She runs our volunteer meal prep program. So we have people who cook meals that are ready to eat and ready to warm up. They deliver home cooked meals all the time. She kind of makes sure that we have like constant outreach with our volunteers and our donors to make sure that the house is always stocked. She sometimes takes these guys to their medical appointments. Like it's pretty amazing what she does. She's an 100% volunteer staff. So everybody that's involved in this, nobody's been getting paid. Nobody is expecting to get paid anytime soon. Like we're all solely focused on this mission and making sure that like we can get through this first 2 years of our, what I call our pilot program. Like if we get the funds and we have a successful gala this year and we can fund all the bills next year, we're going to go off and buy a house. We've just been renting a home. I wanted to make sure I could prove the concept and that I had the support. And we invested, between me and my mom, 50 grand into this house when we first started, furnishing it, getting everything we need. We had a couple people helping with beds and a few things, but mainly it was like me and my mom maxing out credit cards, using student loans, and making sure that we could do this before we go off and buy a property. And if we make it, we're going to get a second home and open it up to women and families. So that'll be a big step for us too. And then on the last thing we do too, we do so much. This is all on one side of my program, by the way. This is all just the Warrior House. When they move out, we help them furnish their apartments with all their furniture, house items, TV, flat screens. Like, we get so much stuff donated that we get to hook these guys up with at least $10,000 worth of house items. We're talking pots and pans, bath rugs, towels, like desks, computers, printers, whatever we have. Like, I have 3 storage units completely full, top to bottom, front to back. And we've been trying to get a warehouse space for the last 3 months. So that's another big thing that we need to get with this gala is we're going to open up a warehouse, and then it'll be free for our veterans to shop. It'll be heavily discounted for other veterans to shop. And then we'll be open to the public and sell all of our surplus. Cause right now we're turning down so many donations every week because we just don't have space. So that's pretty much everything to do with our homeless transition. And then on the other side, we have a volunteer program where we help veterans that own homes with home renovations and essential repairs. So we have a whole contractor network that also hire some of our veterans, and then they help our guys that need these essential repairs. So we help them, like if they have wheelchairs and they need hardwood floors or elevators, stair lifts, ramps, anything to help them with accessibility or like essential plumbing or electrical. We've done about $500,000 in projects since 2020.
Now, I've got a question for you. Does this give you the same amount of reward, if you will, that you give when you receive? You're not receiving something monetarily for doing what you're
Right.
doing to help these warriors. And like I told a group of students last week when I was talking to them, in life, the most rewarding thing we will ever get in our life will be non monetarily. And I'm not talking about donations and stuff
No,
like
I
that.
know
I'm,
what you mean.
I'm talking about
I
what
know what
you're
you mean.
getting back in return from doing a good deed from somebody. Sometimes it just may be looking at the expression of a man or a woman who has been put literally on the streets, and you could see the transformation that is beginning to happen because of the credit of the selfless act and the work that you're doing in the community to change lives. Is that rewarding for you? And what does it feel like? What does it feel like when that happens and when you experience that emotion?
So that's really good question. Really good questions, Brian. So I'll have to share an experience real quick before I can answer that. I was very fortunate during my healing journey this last decade to have some very spiritual experiences and very almost religious experiences without really religion being involved. And with these experiences, I've been able to, what I feel like is rediscovering my purpose here on earth, rediscovering my purpose in this experience, in this human experience that we're all living. And I went from being driven to being the driver, so to speak. There's a really good book called The Untethered Soul. that I read, and it talks about sitting in the seat of consciousness. Are you the one listening? Are you the voice in your head, or are you the one listening? And that was a big question for me. Are you the voice in your head, or are you the one listening? Who is driving right now, and who's being driven? Because we're all experiencing that always. Like, it's always an experience that every human being is having, that there's the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. There's the subconscious, the superconscious. There's all these different levels of consciousness. And when I was able to, what I feel like is rediscover who I am and what my purpose was for being here. I feel like we all come here with a purpose, but we forget it. I feel like that's part of life, is to rediscover that purpose. And it really, it justifies all the experiences, good and bad, that I've had. I feel like, okay, I was supposed to experience this trauma. I was supposed to be baptized by live fire. I was supposed to, see that car blow up. I was supposed to witness these things and go through what I've gone through in order to become who I am today. And my capacity for love is as strong as my capacity for pain. And the more pain I've experienced, the more trauma, the more negative experiences that I've had, it just only deepens my level of love and care, because of how bad those are. I know how good and how grateful I am for the good. And so being grateful to me is being in abundance. A lot of people in America especially are living with scarcity mindsets, scarcity lives. There's not enough. Inflation's killing us. We're not, like, everybody's struggling, and the struggles are real. However, it's the way that you perceive them, the way that you take those struggles and use them. And every struggle in the world has opportunity. When the housing market crashed in 2008, there were hundreds of people that became millionaires because of that. There was thousands of people that started businesses and got into real estate and, like, started changing laws and changing policy and making sure that our country doesn't go through that again. So it created all this opportunity too. And then all the adversity that caused, all the people that came out on top out of that, or were able to go through that, and they're still kicking today, and they still own a home, or they're buying a new home today, and they've bounced back, like, however long it takes. You know what I mean? So, like, I feel like our capacity for love is equal to our capacity for pain, and that what I do is fulfilling my life purpose, because I've been homeless, because I've broken my femurs, I've been abused, I've been what I would say neglected in the hospital and mistreated by the VA. And I went 3 years out of the military without knowing I was 100% qualified. I was entitled to 100% disability. It's $3,300 a month. Like, that's 50% of the veterans that served our country don't get benefits. They're just not in the VA system. Excuse me. And so I felt a responsibility almost to fulfill that purpose and to share what I've learned, and to make sure that, or to really to just improve this world before I leave it. Like, I don't want to leave without making it a little better if I can, or at least making the people in my life better for knowing me. You know what I mean? And it's great that we're having this conversation, because it's something I've really been thinking about a lot these last few weeks. August 1st, that veteran I told you that got 20 grand and $2,200 a month. Well, he was having really bad seizures when we met him, and he wasn't on the proper medications. And about a month after he moved in with us, we started realizing he wasn't himself, and that he was having seizures, and he was isolating, and we were able to get him over to the hospital because he essentially got to the point where he didn't know who he was or where he was. And that was very troubling because we're building a relationship with this guy. He's living in our home, and he's not knowing who he is anymore. So we get him over to the hospital. He's in the hospital for 2 weeks, and they get him on the right meds. He finally starts to remember who he is again, who we are. He didn't even know my name for a week. And so we get him back to the house, and we really debated on this, on whether or not we wanted to take him back or get him some more personal care, find him some kind of like assisted living or something. But he was getting right back to normal. He felt normal, and so we took him back. I became his mentor, so he started making his mentor calls with me twice a week. And then a day after we had a financial class, apparently 2 days after we have a financial class, I get a call from his ex-girlfriend, and she says, have you heard from Mick? We haven't heard from him. It's very strange. We've been calling him. And so I called one of my veterans at the house, and I'm like, hey, can you please go check on Mick? And unfortunately, that morning, early in the morning or late the night before, he had a major seizure and he passed away at the house. And the part that really, really frustrates me is that 2 weeks prior, he had an appointment at the VA that he had waited 6 weeks for since being hospitalized for seizures. He was supposed to get neurology tests. He was supposed to get brain scans. He was supposed to get all these different blood tests. And he was 15 minutes late to his appointment, so the VA refused to see him. And 2 weeks later, he died in the house, waiting 3 weeks away from his new appointment. So 11 weeks after is when they would have actually seen him after being hospitalized. And so I feel like that was 100% preventable. And, it was the experience for me being, the founder of this organization, losing a veteran. I feel like I lost a guy under my watch. Like, I feel like this is what commanders feel like when they lose soldiers, when they lose airmen on the field. And I just, it's been really eye-opening that life is so short, and that you have to live every single day to your fullest, and that you have to fight for what's right every day, and be in line with truth. And be, with our topic, our conversation topic today, I feel like it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, what we just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, it's real, it's raw, it's meaningful, it's turning a negative into a positive. Like you have done, you are, rebranding purpose and identity. And one thing that I have always said, because I have been in the fight for a long time, I have changed VA laws and legislation to improve the lives of veterans across the country. And unfortunately, I've become a sounding board for stories just like that. And the veteran community is an at-risk and vulnerable population. And being 15 minutes late for an appointment is not grounds to turn somebody away, to say, no, we are going to deny your request to see a doctor because you're 15 minutes late. Well, what about the veterans that wait 2 hours in the waiting room?
Right.
So at the end of the day, that should never happen. That is unacceptable. And that brings me to your program that you got coming up, guys, the Veterans Charity Ball. It is November 18th over at the Wings Over the Rockies Air and Space Museum in Denver, Colorado. I will go ahead and put this website up now. We are running out of time. We are taking this interview to the last minute possible. But folks, this has been a extremely engaging conversation that is sure to add some sort of life value to whoever may be watching this. And we're doing this for you, and we're doing this to help improve your life. So, guys, thanks for joining us today. And we sincerely appreciate everything you have done in the community, Andrew, and what you've done for our great nation. Your service, sacrifice, and dedication is truly admirable.
Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate your time and hearing my story and everything that you do for our vets.